This is London calling. London calling the Australasian zone through GSD 11,750 kilocycles, 25.53 meters, and GSC 9,585 kilocycles, 31.3 meters. Before beginning our first program, Mr. J. H. Whitley, the chairman, and Sir John Reith, the Director General of the BBC, are going to speak to you. Mr. Whitley will speak first and will be followed immediately by Sir John Reith. Mr. J. H. Whitley.
Good evening, everybody. My colleagues and I, the governors of the BBC, send our warm greeting to listeners everywhere. For a long time, we have been thinking of the possibility of an Empire broadcast service. Today, we are happy to send out the first program. Remember, it is only a beginning, for we depend upon your cooperation to make the service better and better as time goes on. Much devoted work, thinking, planning and building on the part of the Director General and his staff has made this beginning possible. We shall spare no effort to make the service a real link between the homeland and the people overseas who share our heritage of speech and thought. This wireless, one of the great gifts of Providence to mankind, is a trust of which we are humble ministers. Our prayer is that nothing mean or cheap may lessen its value, and that all its messages may bring happiness and comfort to those who listen. Now I make way for Sir John Reith, to whom broadcasting owes a very great debt. His vision has been the main factor in the building up of the great service to which today we admit you partners.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This occasion is as significant as any in the 10 years of British broadcasting. It is a significant occasion in the history of the British Empire. How significant, it would be unwise at the moment to forecast. A great deal of experiment has yet to be done. There are many troubles to overcome. Some of these, in the technical sphere, may be worse than is at present realized. From today, however, programs will be broadcast regularly from the Empire Station. The experimental days of broadcasting, as such, are over. There must be few in any civilized country who have yet to realize that broadcasting is a development with which the future must reckon, and reckon seriously. The more consideration given to it today, the more experience gained, the more it will be realized that here is an instrument of almost incalculable importance in the social and political life of the community. Its influence will more and more be felt in the daily life of the individual, in almost every sphere of human activity, in affairs national and international. Now it becomes a connecting and coordinating link between the scattered parts of the British Empire. Here at home, From the earliest days it has been our resolve that the great possibilities and influences of the medium should be exploited to the highest human advantage. It matters little in what order one puts its various functions. The service as a whole has been and is dedicated to the best interests of mankind. If we succeed in dispelling some of the isolation and loneliness which is the lot of so many of our kindred overseas, if we bring to them and to others some share of the amenities of the home country and of metropolitan interests and culture, which for one reason or another may not be fully available, if we can induce among the constituent parts of the empire a greater understanding and a greater sympathy, if we can broadcast at home some programs from overseas, if, in general, as is our hope, the several far scattered units of the family may be drawn closer together, then our efforts, which culminate in a preliminary sense today, and definitely in the afternoon of Christmas Day, when His Majesty the King will speak for the first time to the empire as a whole, then I say our efforts are amply rewarded. It is many years since first we thought in terms of empire broadcasting, and it should be noted that we always did so in terms of an exchange between the dominions and colonies and ourselves. 4 years ago, an experimental station began its tests. 2 years ago, we felt ourselves to be in a position to make concrete proposals to the empire and colonial conferences. For financial and technical reasons, these proposals could not be fully endorsed. Last year, we decided that the matter was of such importance as to admit of no further delay. British prestige was at stake. We assumed full responsibility. And now a short explanation as to the preliminary plans. Every day, a series of programs will be sent out to all parts of the empire, somewhere between 5 in the afternoon and midnight local time. We have assumed this to be the most convenient period for listening, although it is not necessarily the best technically. For this purpose, the empire has been divided into 5 time zones, and a separate transmission will be sent to each. If a transmission is intended for reception in a certain limited area, it is obviously wasteful to broadcast in all directions. Each transmission will therefore be directional. Thus, more energy will be given in a particular direction, as required, than if the transmission were. Further, we have arranged to broadcast on various wavelengths to each zone in order to meet the changing seasonal and physical conditions which will be encountered. In general, therefore, each zone has 2 or 3 aerial arrays, each array designed for a particular wavelength and a particular zone. The zone transmissions may eventually overlap each other to some extent, but this will not happen in the early stages, since we are sending only 2 hours of programs to each. We have installed 2 transmitters so that programs to 2 zones can ultimately be sent simultaneously. Apart from this, to cover the desirability of occasional transmitting to all zones at once, we have provided a number of omnidirectional aerials, one for each wavelength likely to be used. The Empire Station is, you will see, fairly fully equipped. If experience proves it necessary, and if financial circumstances improve, additional plant can easily be installed. To enable us to consider improvements and modifications, and we know that some will be necessary, we are entirely dependent on reports from overseas based on careful observations. The longer the period covered, the more valuable they will be, and we ask you to collaborate with us in this respect. As to programs, don't expect too much in the early days. For some time we shall transmit comparatively simple programs to give the best chance of intelligible reception and provide evidence as to the type of material most suitable for the service in each zone. The programs will neither be very interesting nor very good. We must broadcast material of all sorts and check up zone by zone how it is received, and then the program material will be altered so as to give better results. The hours we have chosen are as follows. These are given in Greenwich Mean Time. For the Australian zone, 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. For the Indian zone, 2:30 in the afternoon to 4:30. African zone, 6 to 8 in the afternoon. The West African zone, 8:30 to 10:30. And the Canadian zone, 1 in the morning to 3. I shall leave you to turn these into your various local times, but it should never be earlier than 5 in the afternoon with you, nor later than 12 midnight. Eventually, we expect and hope to fill these 2 hours with programs that will satisfy our overseas listeners. But in this respect also, a great deal of evidence is needed by us before we can be certain what to do. I hope you will feel that we are doing all we can here. At any rate, you will be in no doubt as to the immense interest and enthusiasm which we feel with respect to this new service. Without your cooperation, progress will be slow and unsatisfactory. The rate of progress, the satisfaction to be derived from the service, will be determined by the measure of your cooperation, by the volume of suggestion and constructive criticism, both of a technical and of a general nature, received from you. Apart from technical information, we want to know the kind of material you would like to have from us and the time. But please remember the limitations of short-wave work, for it may be necessary for you to confine your suggestions to that type of program which experience shows to be capable of good transmission to your own zone. I suppose we are considering primarily those who possess short-wave receiving sets and who are out of touch with local broadcasting organizations. But we shall also expect and welcome requests from overseas broadcasting organizations to relay our programs. And now we send you greetings from London and from Broadcasting House and the BBC in particular, and we believe this to be the beginning of an association, happy and useful and important in the annals of empire. Now just a word from Mr. Ashbridge, the Chief Engineer, and from Captain Graves, the Empire Service Director.
I want to take this opportunity of thanking all those who have sent in reports on the preliminary tests which we have been carrying out during the past few weeks. We have received over 300 cablegrams and nearly 1,000 letters. And although we are acknowledging each one individually, I should like to express my thanks on this occasion.
Mr. Ashbridge has just thanked you for the help he has already received during the preliminary testing period. As the official who is responsible for the programs which will be transmitted from the British Empire Station, I cannot as yet follow his example. I am hoping, however, that before many weeks have passed, I shall be in a position to do so, and that I shall have received many letters of suggestion with regard to the eventual construction of your programs. Please do not hesitate to write. I need your help and cooperation.